Welcome to the Game On podcast. Tonight, Port Adelaide secure a top 2 finish after an arm wrestle against Fremantle. The Crows will want to put season 2024 behind them very, very quickly. And there's absolutely no place in our game for these questionable incidents. All right, let's do this. Welcome to the Game On podcast. My name's Pete, once again joined by Malcolm here. And, mate, we'll kick off with your good for the weekend.
Nord getting the minor premiership. Pretty predictable one, I reckon, on behalf for me, mate, in that regard.
Yep, absolutely. I can certainly understand why you might say that. Well, my good for the weekend or the week is I'm going to play a little bit of audio. Well, mate, we probably should have brought the cricket bats in today because we should be lifting them for the ton. We've actually reached our 100th episode live. We've obviously, if you go through all our podcasts, we've got about 160, but we do replay some of those past interviews just to keep everybody in the loop. But we've cracked the ton, mate. So for me, I'm actually quite chuffed that, one, we've made it to 100. Some podcasts don't get out of 10, so we've done that. So I thank you, mate, for a lot of the work that you've done there over
Fair effort putting up with me for that long, Pete. I won't say that.
Well,
so thank you.
Do I dare say 100 more, maybe?
Hopefully.
We'll see how we go. But that's my good for the week, mate, that we can raise our bat and raise our glasses that we've reached the ton. So
definitely.
Let's get into Around the Grounds.
Around the Grounds.
All right, and as per usual, we're going to talk some SANFL, we're going to talk some cricket, and a little bit on the retiring class. So we've got another 3 players this week. But let's kick off with the AFL. Really, everything went down to the last round of the season, exactly what the AFL would have wanted to have scripted. But your thoughts on round 24?
Yeah, it was funny on Sunday where you had, the St Kilda game. I'll be honest, I was hoping GWS would win to make sure that last game was alive. Then you had, the Carlton St Kilda game down into the wire. So then all of a sudden, the last game is alive, and obviously, I was hoping that GWS would win, that Fremantle would win easy, and that it put Port down to third. But no luck in that regard. And look, in fairness, full credit to Port.
Absolutely.
At the moment.
Well, Port Adelaide went to Western Australia knowing what needed to be done against a team that had everything to play for.
Yeah. And Freo up early. You thought, hang on, the home crowd playing for everything. And Farrell gets injured, Aaliyah off the ground for a while. So, again, you're thinking, right, this is everything to suit. Houston's obviously out suspended as well, so you lose the disposal out of the back line, their 2 lethal weapons. Now they continue to they got the job done again.
Absolutely. All right, well, let's have a little listen to what Kenny had to say, and we'll go from there.
Congratulations, Ken.
Thank you.
Describe the value of that win for your team?
I think it's it's really important for us because clearly that was a great test for us with Fremantle in their home ground with everything that they needed to play for, and where we positioned ourselves. It was just really solid work, I reckon, to pretty mature to turn up there and take care of business the way we've been able to for the last 7 or 8 weeks. So really proud of the boys tonight.
How did you go about it?
Oh, we did it around contest. We did it around, just putting pressure on the ball as much as we possibly could. We've been a bit makeshift over the last few weeks. We've been having to put people in different spots, and we've been brave enough to, try some different things, which has put us in a really healthy position and give us a bit of a different look. I think we're a bit different team. I think we're a pretty reliable team.
Is that Port's? They've exposed the Achilles heel, I suppose, to these scenarios. Is this the one thing that keeps them and holds them in good stead now, leading into a prelim final if they, obviously win this week or next week against Geelong?
Yeah, and personally, I reckon they've got the great. I give them. I think Geelong was the perfect opponent for them. I think they've got the best time slot for them. Yeah, interestingly enough, Craig Martin, a couple of people weren't happy on playing the Thursday night. I couldn't disagree more. I think the bit with Port having the monkey on the back, get into it, get early. You've then got the biggest gap before the next game of teams playing. I think Thursday night was. Mm-hmm. And 2 plays 3 on Thursday night for that reason.
Yes.
So it wasn't just suddenly invented, yeah. So I couldn't work.
Is it a case of the less days and the travel back from Perth that's probably upset a few Port faithful? But you've got the week in between.
Yeah. I just think, bang, hey, hang on.
I agree with you. I'd rather get out there and get it done. Rip the Band-Aid. Let's do it now.
With a monkey on their back, I reckon they want to get out there. So I think in that way, I think it's great for them. So.
Did you find it surprising, and we could have played it as part of Kenny's interview there, that not a lot of the players bought into what had happened between St Kilda and Carlton, whereas Fremantle sort of did buy into that and were a bit flat in the second half because of it?
Let's also remember there's a week off this week. So, I think that is easily the best time slot for Port.
Yep.
I think it's great.
Yep.
So, anyway, yeah, I think they just approached it pretty maturely in the end. Yeah, just get on with it. Worry about what they could control, which is exactly what Jade Rawlings was about, the same thing.
Yep.
So, yeah.
So we've had a lot of Port Adelaide guests, or we haven't had a lot, but we've had a fair share of Port Adelaide guests on the show about the old Port Adelaide days. Can we liken it a little bit to back in the day where there were not those name players on paper that you go, geez, we should beat these guys? Is it a case of there's a little bit of that about Port Adelaide at the moment?
Yeah, maybe a little bit, because you look at their forward line and go, gee, there's probably not that much up forward, but Georgiadis is doing the job. Rioli's pretty dangerous as a small forward. I don't think they lose anything with Dixon not playing. In fact, I think it'll be very interesting whether he plays against Geelong.
Yep.
So in that way...
Now, you mentioned Rioli there. He plays their 14 wins, 3 losses or something like that. If he doesn't play, I think they're 5 losses and 2 wins.
Yeah, he's
so
very
he is
important.
a vital
player.
Yep.
Full credit, very good recruit. And look, hey, ruck was their weakness. Hello, they go and recruit Soldo and Sweet. Jordan Sweet's been fantastic in the second half of the year.
A 2-for-1 deal there, didn't they?
Yeah,
really?
Having 2 cracks. Hello, Adelaide Football Club. Weakness in the ruck. Nothing's happened for donkey's years. Yep. And Jordan Sweet, to his credit, the Modbury High boys delivering.
Absolutely. All right, let's stay with Port Adelaide for a little bit. Obviously, the Fab Four, Horne-Francis, Rosie, Butters, and Wines has stepped up. A bit more time in the midfield has certainly, I think, helped that.
He has, because he was struggling first, and he struggled now for a fair while, and all of it, and you're thinking, geez, should he even be in the side?
But is that because he was out?
Good.
Because he was out on the wing, and now he's back in his
wing was ridiculous.
Favoured spot.
Never going to work out there. And look, but at the moment, as I said, I think they're the better of the round against Geelong. I hope I'm wrong, but yeah, I think it's a great result for them.
What are your thoughts on Jason Horne-Francis splitting? Oh, absolutely, and he can tear a game apart. But what do you think about their tactics of sort of splitting in between the midfield and the forward line and not having the Fab 3 or Fab 4 in the middle all at once?
Oh, I think it's great because he's so dangerous up forward because he's such a hard matchup. There's no one really quick enough of that height to go with him. They don't really know which way to go, which defender gets him. And, yeah, he at the moment, he's for mine. He's Port's potential Mr. September.
There was a little bit of footage shown on, I think it was Fox or it might have been Channel 9 there about his cruising speed. It just is catching a lot of players out as to where he moves, when he moves. His footy smarts are something that I think Port definitely went after to get him, but I think that it's very, very important that he continues to evolve and is going to end up being one of the best players in the AFL, if not already on that path.
Definitely.
Yep.
He's going to be in the top handful.
Yep. Absolutely. All right, let's move on to Adelaide before we get into some of the hot topics. Saturday night's game ended the season for the Crows. Hopes of finishing the season with a bit of an upset against clearly one of the best teams in the AFL. It's a season that promised so much but delivered so little. Do we watch this space? Because I'm a little concerned, and we've already talked about this a little bit off air, as to how do they attract players not only to the club,
exactly, because that's
but where and how they go about it.
well, and the interesting one's going to be Lukosius. He's going to have a choice of the two. I still think he'll end up at Port Adelaide. So,
do you think that's because of the relationship he's got with Rosie?
No, I don't think.
Nope.
And you've got his relationship with Rankin and that as well. I don't think out of that. Let's face it, Pete. If you got your choice at the moment to play for Adelaide or Port,
well,
one team's a chance to win a flag. I don't think Adelaide's anywhere near that. So yeah,
you have to park your allegiances there, don't you?
Yeah.
And you got to seriously think about it.
Yeah.
Yep. Obviously, we'll take a quick listen to what Matty Nix had to say.
I think we played 7 of the top 8 in the last sort of 7 or 8 rounds, 7 rounds. So it's been a really challenging run home, but we know where the gaps are, and there's a lot of work-ons in that. So, when we look at our season this year and, how do you rate our season? Well, it's a really disappointing one for us. We didn't hit an expectation that we came into the season. Our expectation was to play finals footy, and at the moment we're not playing. But as I mentioned, when you do play the best teams towards the end of the year, and the best team in my opinion tonight, you get a bit of an idea of where that gap is. And I think it comes back to some of the consistency of how you perform. And so we've got some work to do now.
So obviously, Matty talking about the run home wasn't exactly favourable, but you set up your season earlier and win the games that you've got to win, plays a big part in that. But how does he coach his way out of this? Because you don't have the cattle on the park. You're trying to get cattle through the door, and if it doesn't happen, he's coaching with one arm tied behind his back once again.
Oh, as I said, I go on and on about it. For me, they've dug themselves a hole. They've only got themselves to blame with list management decisions, and a couple who've played over 100 games.
So does Matty Nix cop the brunt of that as far as potentially going to get his job under the most amount of pressure? But does that go back to list management? I know that he has some input into that, but the list managers are the ones that are putting up the...
It's both, but again, you just...
But the list management has been there longer than what Matty Nix has been there.
Exactly. No, I think there's got to be big wholesale changes in Adelaide, but and I know I'm going on and on about it, but I don't believe Lockie Murphy would be on any other club's AFL list.
Yep.
Now, to purely... And there'd be, someone might take Rolly O'Brien, maybe, but to have that for years and over 100 games. So you're talking over 5, 6, 7 years.
So they're list cloggers that are potentially taking up spots.
It's horrendous.
Let's move on we'll stick with Adelaide, but we'll move on to the hot topic. Obviously, the big news that came out last week was about Josh Rachele being dropped for round 24. Was this the right call? Because I think they've unnecessarily put not only Matty Nix, Josh Rachele, and the Adelaide Football Club under greater pressure now leading into 2025? Or is it a case of getting him to play on edge?
I have no problem with him getting dropped for not meeting standards and saying things and all that. But where was the guidance there? Why wasn't he removed from the media to go, hang on, this kid's 21. He ain't ready for this. And, the teeth comment and all that, which for mine was nothing in it. But I think the problem was he kicked the goal and then ran to the crowd instead of, and so he, I reckon he's got a clip for that and understandable. But I just think overall, I've got no problem with the decision, but the way it was done, I think, was very poor. There's big doubts whether Mark Keane is going to come back. He's got to watch the space there. So I just think it was a pretty average week by the Adelaide Football Club in general.
Was it a case of them not being on the same page? Because it seemed like one press conference was, it is what it is, and this is how we're done, and it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And then another press conference going, no, this is a sustained...
So possibly the leadership group have then come involved and gone, no. Well, again, and look, he may have been told enough times and they've gone, right, that's it. Again, I've got no problem with it, but I just think the way it was done. it looked really amateurish.
Yep.
Hang on, this is meant to be a professional sporting club in a multi-million-dollar business, and it looked like kangaroo out of thirds.
Amateur hour. Let's take the example of Geelong and the Stengel incident.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're comparing them, they're chalk and cheese. Do you think that the comments that Josh Rochelle made and then the gesture to the crowd after the goal was said in the pre-game, like, don't rile the crowd up any more than what they already are?
Well, you suspect so because...
And this is what's brought about the result?
That's what you're then thinking, that the leadership group have gone, right, he's not meeting standards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, again, it's probably... I think it's silly, but it lacked maturity at all ends. That's probably the best way to put it.
Would you have let him play round 24 and then address it after the season confidentially or within the house?
Yep, I certainly I would have assessed it within. So you effectively did it out in public, which I think was ridiculous. It could have been handled far better.
Could it have been that they've tried everything else and
possibly
this might be the only way to get the message through?
May have been the end. So yeah, there. But
is it the pitiful?
So that's possible.
Is it the pitiful Pittman all over again?
Yeah, Pitto's never happy about that one.
No, I know, but it was very public.
Yeah,
and it elicited a fantastic response.
Yeah. Oh, I think that was Malcolm Blight's gone right. I think that was predetermined by Blight, and he decided it could have been one of 5 or 6 players.
Yep.
And just David was the unlucky one.
Yep. Let's stick with Adelaide. One more question. Question without notice. The leadership group for the Adelaide Crows. We talked about it right at the beginning of the season. We shook our head and went, who, what, why, when, how. That leadership group has failed in every respect.
Oh, well, some ridiculous people in it. Like, I'm sorry, you can't have your fringe players.
But you're 8 deep.
Yeah, there's too many for one.
This is what I'm sort of alluding to. Not necessarily the personnel, which we've obviously talked about at nauseum, in that those players probably shouldn't be there or the fringe players shouldn't be there. Yeah. But way too many people just doesn't work. Yeah. We've seen it at many clubs before. I know that Jordan Dawson wants to spread the workload, and I get that. And they are becoming a very inclusive club as far as that goes. But I think they're the wrong people that are involved. Do we see them scaling that back a little bit?
I would hope so. It never works having as many as that.
Who do you see?
Might as well have had the milkman and the person who and the traffic controller in it.
The boot stutter. Who do you see coming into that leadership group? Because it's going to change. It has to change. Do you stick with Fogarty?
So maybe I would say Michael Annie would be a possibility. He's very mature. Probably going to be the leader of that back line would be a possibility there. Mm-hmm. Again, I think it's hard as an outsider in that way, but I think they've had too many.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Wayne Malira is obviously in that group. He didn't play, obviously, very much this year. Is his contribution off the field during injury benefit to the club, and then when he comes in, he might be a benefit?
You don't know from the outside, and I'd rather him just concentrate on playing and recovering and getting back out there.
What about Jordan Dawson? This is a breaking news story, if you want to put it that way, that do we see him still being captain of the club?
I would think so. Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
Is that because there's no other person that you can see stepping into that role?
Oh, there's certainly no obvious other candidate.
Because he just looks flat and devoid of all confidence.
Yeah, I think maybe the world's grown on his shoulders, but that's part of development. And, he'd be sitting there at the moment thinking, geez, I could have been playing the final series for Sydney at the moment. Mm-hmm. So there'd be a bit of that as well. But he wanted to come home. So, out of that, it's one of those things. Yeah, move on.
Where do Adelaide recruit?
Oh, well, Neil Bullen's a chance, obviously. Look, they're still a big club. They're a big club, big supporter base. They're a big business.
Yeah, but West Coast are like that. They can't even get a coach at the moment.
Yeah, I know. I think let's wait and see. But it doesn't hurt. It hurts when the other team you're competing against is in the premiership window. And Adelaide certainly are.
And they're picking off players potentially for less coin or less opportunity. All right, let's continue on with some of the hot topics. All Australian 44-man squad has been set with no Adelaide players and no Richmond players, but 3 for Port Adelaide.
Yeah, I don't think there was anyone from
No
Adelaide.
surprises.
Look, Key's name would have been considered, but I don't think he makes it. I have no problem with any of those players. Look, I think Marshall for St Kilda is probably a little unlucky. Wilkie maybe a little bit there, but
Yep.
there's no one you look at that squad and go, oh, geez, they shouldn't be in it. So
Absolutely. Bit of homework for us both here, mate. Let's come up with our all Australian 22. We might do that over the next day or two before they announce it. I think it's on Thursday night. And then we'll talk about it next week and see how close we sort of are with that as well. So a little bit of homework over the next couple of days.
That's fine.
The Petrarca trade seems more and more likely as hypothetical situations are thrown up. And is McKay from Carlton the key to the puzzle?
Who knows? But it's seemingly more and more likely that he won't be at Melbourne. You've really got to question Melbourne's the whole bit there. Where's the welfare officer? No, people who are employed in those roles, people having a crack at Simon Goodman and all that. Well, hang on. Where's the actual people who are in those roles? And it seemed like it was really poor communication. And look, I don't think he should have gone. It was ridiculous. He went back on the ground. I think we all agree with that.
Yep.
Poorly done medically and that side of it. I get that he's passed the medical at the time and it's not showing, but you could see how the agony. I still think that was pretty poor, but
that looks like a small part of it. They're reporting at the moment.
I think it's a big part.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. But playing at a bigger club, I don't quite sort of understand that. He doesn't look like or hasn't shown that he's that kind of person. That it's me. It's that makes me scratch my head a little bit. The handling of Oliver, I can sort of see being a little bit of a red flag, but those other excuses or the hypotheticals that why he wants to leave being put up just doesn't ring true for me. But I'm not in the four walls.
Also, I'd say the family-wise, out of that, the girlfriend and other members, hang on, how bad have Melbourne been in this injury? So I'd say that's in his ear a fair bit as well, and
Can we see that getting done?
Wait and see, but
what's your gut feel right at this very moment in time? Yay or nay?
Well, it doesn't look like the relationship's going to get mended at the moment. Let's wait and see. There's still plenty of time, but
my gut feel is yes, it's going to happen on the basis that there's just a point of no return, and I think we've hit that.
That's the way it looks on the surface at the moment. On the surface, but we're not around, and I dare say Melbourne.
What does Max Gawn do? Because he's been the glue that's kept everything together, and all of a sudden everyone's jumping ship.
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of things happening behind the scenes at Melbourne at the moment. So wait and see.
It's a scary. It is a scary thought. All right, let's continue on with some of the hot topics. The Hawks, are they the story of the season after 0-5? They're now 7th on the table. Can they do some damage in the finals, considering their opponent? And we'll talk about this a little more next week, the actual matchups and the games. But their opponent's going to be Western Bulldogs. They're probably the two teams that are going to scare the most out of all of the top 8 teams at the moment.
That's potentially the game of the final series. Now, let's also remember, and pointed out by Danny Valdemar Holiday Handbag Hurricane the Dane Hansen, where he pointed out that if Hawthorn had beaten Port here, where they should have, they actually finished second.
Yep.
And would have played Port in
round 1.
Would have played Port at the G. So, out of that, they lost that game and the GWS game when they both should have won those 2 games, especially the Port game. So out of that...
So are they the story of the season?
Oh, I think they are.
From a playing point of view,
considering... the rebuild from there, it's just been incredible. Look, I think it's going to be vital to see whether Will Day comes up or not. He's very important. But let's be honest. I think the Hawthorn Bulldogs game as a neutral is the game we're all salivating about.
Yep. Absolutely. I know. I'm already looking forward to it as it is. Could the decision to the umpires to throw the ball up a little bit quicker helped and hindered some teams with that change about midway through the season?
Yeah, maybe.
From a structural point of view, because it looks like Sydney sort of didn't cope with it as much in getting their structures right, whereas now they've tweaked it enough to be able to deal with it a little bit?
Maybe. That's a hard one. I think, personally, it should be thrown up at all times.
Well, no, just the speed, because it looked...
Get on with the game.
Halfway through the season, it was 30 seconds between the ball getting collected by the umpire.
Get on with the game.
Pointing,
all that bullshit.
Whereas at the moment, it's down to around about 17 seconds or less in the basis that the umpire's getting the ball, yep, bang.
Yeah, just get on with the game.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you think it helped and hindered some teams, especially, say, Hawthorn?
Maybe.
Play quicker?
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah. Anyway.
Possibly.
Last one for some hot topics this week. Should the showdown be a standalone game? And if so, which is the right fixture? Is it a Friday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday?
I think Friday and maybe Saturday night. Yes, it is. They are. Even Barmy says it's the biggest rivalry. So, it is huge. And I think it's, yet again, instead of the extended VFL competition, there should be more respect shown.
Absolutely. All right, let's go through a couple of last week's results. Melbourne going down to Collingwood by 46 points in a rather interesting game that was delayed by lightning. We don't hear that too often.
Yeah, it was bizarre. I admit I was headed out to the Arkabar to catch up with a couple of people there, and, it was crazy. We were sitting around.
Waiting. I think there was about a 50-minute delay between games, and in a result that had no bearing, was very interesting that
they couldn't
sort of
call it off because of betting, which isn't that ironic?
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Hawthorn getting the job done by 124 points over North Melbourne. Is it a case that 24 rounds is a little bit too long?
Yeah, it does seem like North
for a couple
Melbourne
of
and
those
West
teams
Coast fell away dramatically, didn't they? And really disappointing with just the lack of competitiveness, and that was the disappointing thing. Yep. Yeah, Adelaide, you could have cut through their defence with a swift knife, well and truly easily. And
the end result of 31 points wasn't exactly as flattering as it was more flattering than what it could have been.
Exactly,
it's like 50 or 60 points at one stage there. Geelong getting up by 93 points over West Coast there. Down at GMHBA Stadium, they're not going to lose too many, but they've got certainly a tougher task coming up against Port Adelaide.
Yeah.
The Suns getting a win away from home there by 28 points over Richmond, and a few farewells that obviously happened at the G there.
Yeah, and they've got 34,000 there. Without those farewells, it probably would have been 15 to 20. So it's interesting though, Richmond, if they're not competitive, those crowds fall away pretty quick. Mm-hmm. Ridiculous.
Well, Melbourne is a little bit the same as well.
Yeah, they got 92,000 for the farewell of the Martins 300th, but other than that, there's been a couple of really average crowds. So,
stick with Richmond for just a second here. Again, question without notice. Do they go hard and trade out the players to get the draft picks for the next 2 years before Tasmania?
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt.
Do you think they're in a better place than, say, an Adelaide or West Coast to do that?
Yeah, they are, because Bolton, it looks like Bolton, Baker, Rioli all go.
Because they've got trade currency.
And they're now throwing, and the word is that Lynch is going to be thrown out there and Richmond are going to prepare to pay most of his salary. So all of a sudden that gets back in the equation potentially there as well.
Mm-hmm. So. Brisbane Lions getting up over Essendon by 20 points. I don't think we're really surprised too much with that. The one incident, as we sort of brought up in our little preview at the beginning there, was the Kelly kick. I'm surprised not a lot more has been said and done about that, because that is an ugly look.
Yeah, it was a bit weird. Yeah. I think Essendon are now up to 7,500 days since their last finals win and still continuing to grow. It's incredible, isn't it?
Their drop-off from last season and again this season, look at the top three, round 15 or round 16 was Collingwood, Carlton and Essendon, and all three of them missed the final. Carlton didn't miss the finals, but Essendon and Collingwood did. So very interesting times there. Game of the round, and we did have a bit of fun with it, saying that it was going to be 19 degrees out at Mars Stadium there, and there might be some nude sunbathing. Well, if they did that, their clothes mate would have been blown away, because it was probably one of the windiest games I've ever seen for quite some time. English lining up from 30 out. Looks like he's kicked it beautifully on on par, and next minute out of the full by 20 metres.
Yeah, it was weird, wasn't it? Incredible. Yeah. Yeah, to see the weird Melbourne weather really struck on the weekend.
Yeah. And we got a little bit of that here today at the moment. It's blowing an absolute gale outside. Giants disappointing?
A little bit, yeah. It was interesting with 3 players pulled out for the game. Did you wonder if they thought, right, let's have a crack at Sydney at the G? So
well, this is what you've got to think, and we'll talk about this a little bit more. In that, did they just play the percentages?
Yeah, maybe. It's interesting one.
It is indeed. Carlton going down to St Kilda by 2 points. As we know, the ramifications for that was the agony and ecstasy of being a supporter of a club that is teetering on the finals, and Carlton had to do it with a makeshift team. Do the reinforcements coming back unsettle that a little bit? Or do they're playing with house money now? Do they get the free roll of the dice?
Let's remember Western Bulldogs in 16 made 7 changes for that first final, and away they went with guys all coming back. 5 to 7 changes it was.
Yep.
Look, Curnow, Mackay come back. That just changes them up immediately.
Does it straighten them up, or does it mean that they're bombing a bit more?
Yeah.
Or from what we've seen in the last 2 weeks, does it actually help them become more potent forwards?
It's going to be interesting to see how Curnow's ankle is. Like, obviously, he's carried it most of the year, and in the end, they went, right, no more.
Yep.
So what it'll be, 4 weeks
since
you've played. So hopefully, because look, he was disappointing in last year's final series, so there's a bit of pressure on him to then thing up. So, Brisbane have been hot and cold as well. So, yeah, look, obviously Brisbane start overwhelming favourites, but I'm sure that'll be the way of Vossi will sell it. Hey, guys, free crack here.
Yep.
We weren't playing finals for a couple of hours. Free crack here. Let's have some fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
It could be the little team bonding, get around it, let's go.
And look, how many times, so St Kilda now, great selling point for next year to their potential members, but how many times have we seen teams do that over the years? Adelaide were renowned for doing it over past years. Come home with a wet sail, so you've got the real easy sell for the next year and then fade away again. So, I wouldn't get too carried away on that regard.
Well,
St Kilda,
with Adelaide not finishing off the year very well, does that change their mindset for this year? Because last year it was, we're so close, but yet so far, and it's going to be better and better and better, and it never worked. So St Kilda, and I did see a little stat here. I think it was Footy Classified might have put it that St Kilda are in the quicksand as far as sitting in that middle 6. Yeah. Can't get out of it. They can't go above, and they generally don't go below.
Look, they're going to lose Josh Battle. Now, if they get the Band-Aid 1 compensation, so suddenly they've got draft choices 5 and 6. For mine, that's an IKEA start the car moment. If I was a St Kilda, I'd drive Battle to the airport to Hawthorn for that. So,
and obviously Fremantle going down to Port Adelaide by 20 points. Do you think Freo missed an opportunity?
Well, they're the first team not to make the 8 with 4 rounds to go after being third. So, look.
Well, they did play the second side, the third side, and the fourth side.
But, geez, they fell away. Yeah.
Is Tracy's injury part and parcel of that a little bit?
Tracy, Darcy, Ryan, they had some big injuries.
Yep. All right, let's finish it off. Round 24, the ladder as it stood was Sydney, Port Adelaide, GWS Giants, the Cats, the Lions, the Bulldogs, Hawthorn and Carlton, with Fremantle, Collingwood and Essendon just missing out there. Now, because we do have the bye week, we'll save our sort of talking points and tips for next week. But the AFL kicks off in the AFLW round 1. We'll quickly just flip through and have a bit of fun with some of the tips here, and we'll see how close we are. Again, being so invested in the men's game, you sort of haven't kept your eye too much on it, but let's have a bit of fun and see how we go here.
Sydney, my thoughts of starting now.
I do, and I'm in the same boat.
Yep.
Sydney v Collingwood at North Sydney Oval.
Only because I know that Sydney are very invested in women's footy, so I'm probably there going, because I've heard about it from Sydney people, being with Andrew Prelim and
Yep.
and Hales and that. So I'll go Sydney.
Yeah, I'll probably go Sydney there as well. West Coast v Richmond. Obviously, Daisy Pearce taking over the reins there. Do we see her having a bit of an immediate impact? But they are a team that has come to the competition a little bit later.
Yeah, and Richmond improved last year significantly. So, yeah, I'll go for Richmond. I'll go for Barmy.
You'll go for Barmy and Richmond. I'm going to go the Eagles only because it's in Perth. So, again, the women have got to deal with the travel a little bit as well. GWS v the Giants. Manuka Oval in Canberra.
GWS can't be V.
GWS v the Western Bulldogs.
Western Bulldogs have fallen away and been a little disappointing now for a while. I'll go for GWS.
GWS it is. Essendon v the Fremantle Doctors at Windy Hill. Back to some of these suburban grounds. I love it.
Fremantle were very good last year. Essendon were good, reasonable as well.
Flip of the coin.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for the Shockers.
I'm going to go for the Shocker Dockers as well. Gold Coast Suns v St Kilda at People First Choice Stadium.
I'll go for St Kilda for the sheer law link.
I'll go for St Kilda there as well myself. Geelong v Melbourne at GMHBA Stadium.
Yeah, I'll go Melbourne. It's easy. It's probably a hard one.
I'll go the Cats. Let's have a bit of fun here. I'm gonna just for a point of difference. And the showdown, Port Adelaide v the Crows, 7:15 Saturday night at Alberton Oval.
Yeah, I'll go for Adelaide.
Adelaide as well. And then on Sunday, Hawthorn v Carlton out at Frankston there, Kinetic Stadium.
Yeah, I'll toss the coin. I'll go Hawthorn.
I'll go Carlton. I'll stick with my Blues there. And Brisbane Lions v North Melbourne. Grand final rematch.
Yeah, I'll go Brisbane up there.
I'll go Brisbane as well. Fantastic if you can get along, watch the footy. I think I like the idea of filling it in with the AFLW. I just don't like that it's at the end of the season because it's not given the kudos and the respect that it needs to be given.
Should be starting in February.
Absolutely. All right. Coming up, Norwood secure top spot and the minor premiership. Sturt with 13 wins in a row can't be discounted. We're going to talk some cricket, the 2024-25 domestic fixture, and some retiring legends.
We'll be right back after this short break.
A dents and scratches putting a dent in your day? Introducing Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide, your trusted solution for automotive woes. With over 2 decades of expertise, Roger Steen Crash Repairs guarantees top-notch service, restoring your vehicle to its former glory in no time. From minor dings to major collisions, our skilled technicians handle it all with precision and care, using state-of-the-art equipment and techniques.
Roger Steen Crash Repairs saved my car. It looks brand new.
Fast, friendly and reliable. I wouldn't trust anyone else with my vehicle. Don't let accidents slow you down. Visit Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide at 14 Penner Avenue, Glynde, for quality service you can count on. And here's a special offer just for our listeners. Mention this podcast and receive a $100 discount on your repair. Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide. Excellence in every repair.
Yeah, greatly appreciated. Hopefully Maeve's sending him some business this week.
Absolutely.
So
well, we thank
us.
We thank our sponsors, and obviously Gary KRIEVS is coming up a little bit later. But we continue on with Around the Grounds, mate. We've got the SANFL round 19 is completed. Glenelg doing what they needed to do against South Adelaide.
Yeah, South of Young list had a lot of injuries as well. I'm not surprised that Glenelg spanked them. I still think Glenelg are still a chance. I'm going to go Glenelg will beat the Eagles pretty easily, and I still think Sturt will beat Central, especially Harry Grant being out injured for Centrals. He's Central's main player. I can see Glenelg coming through, gaining some momentum from the elimination final, and I still think they are a big chance.
Well, we had Justin Scripps as part of our encore episode on Monday there, our sort of review of what some of the episodes, and just listening to that, they were bullish on what they wanted to do, and the theme about it was they want to create a bit of history down at Glenelg, and I think they're in a good position. I'm with you on that. They're in a pretty good position to do that.
I really do. I reckon I'll be very surprised if they don't make the prelim final.
Yep.
I hope I'm wrong. I'd like to see them
knocked out early, so they're not the threat. But hey, it is what it is. Yep. Central Districts absolutely making a mess of Port Adelaide out at Ex-Convenience Oval there.
And well done to the Central supporters. I thought it was very funny how many of them turned up with the wooden spoons. And, a couple of amusing clips out there. The Central's elderly gentleman with a wooden spoon was fantastic. I thought, good on him.
Yep.
Bit of fun.
It is a bit of fun and banter, and I think that's how you've got to take it.
Port have given it out enough times. I reckon it's about time they copped it back.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think just going back through the history books, first time that they finished bottom since 1900.
Yeah. So
it's not a great thing for Port Adelaide in the SANFL, but again, it is the power reserves when you really think about it. Nord really getting off to a pretty comprehensive start and then went on with it, and for once they kicked straight.
And especially without Jackson Callow too. Jacko heard it training on last Tuesday night.
Mm.
Hopefully comes up.
Yep.
There and look, Tristan Binder, to his credit, in the reserves this year, has then come in and played really well so far in his 3 league games. Kicked 5, was close. It was 3 points the difference halfway through the second quarter, and then Nord kicked 4 and 28 points up at halftime, and I think they ended up kicking 14 goals in a row.
Yep.
Yeah, which is incredible. So look, well done to Nord getting the minor premiership at both league and reserves, which means they can have that same program and pattern for the next week. They've had a few days off. They don't go back till tomorrow night. So hopefully that then works out.
Absolutely. Obviously, Nord, congratulations on taking the minor premiership. They had to win big or to sort of keep Sturt at bay, because Sturt are the form team at the moment, and they did what they needed to do against Adelaide. And I was surprised with a couple of players coming back from Adelaide that they did it as well as they did, but I think that just shows you the class of Sturt at the moment.
Pretty incredible 15-3 and 60-odd% that you don't finish minor premiers. Yeah,
unbelievable.
Unusual.
And then the other game that happened, and all games happened at 2:10 on Saturday, which is a rare thing at the moment, but obviously being the last round. North Adelaide finish off their season reasonably strong with a win against West Adelaide.
Yes, and I've actually just got a message come through from Liam Robertson saying, make sure you mention Logan Evans. So, look, Logan Evans, congratulations winning the Rising Star. Look, good on him, and great for Logan, but I still can't understand how he was allowed to be a Port player this year, how they managed to get another player.
Yes.
So Port's complaints the SANFL don't do anything for him. Pretty hard to argue on that one.
Yep, and he's an absolute jet.
He's
hard to think that he's playing at Nord reserves and then gets an opportunity at Port Adelaide and they pick him up. All right, mate, we'll move on to this week's games, elimination finals and qualifying finals. You sort of already alluded to it, that you think Glenelg are going to beat Woodville West Torrens. Do you give Woodville West Torrens a chance?
Again, at least for them, it's a free hit. They've been terrible this second half of the year, so there's no confidence out there at all. I think they've won 2 of their last 7, I think it is. It's around that, and so.
But are your losses closer to a win though?
Yeah, I'm sure Source will just be trying to, and Dave Kuzner and the boys who I've got a lot of respect for, will just be trying to say, right, let's just get out and have a crack, and I hope they do. But geez, I still think I think Glenelg and Sturt will both win pretty easily, personally.
Okay. Well, you've already given your tip there, Glenelg and Sturt. I'm in the same boat. I think Glenelg and Sturt. The Bulldogs for me is an interesting one because they almost get a bit of a free hit too, don't they?
And massive respect for Centrals. I think in some ways they're the team of the year, that they've got that double chance where I don't think their list is anywhere near as good. They lost their ruckman really early in the year.
And Harry Grant's been a bit in and out.
And Paul Harry's now injured again.
Yep.
who is their best player, obviously. So full credit to Centrals, and I've got a lot of respect for Paul Thomas and Centrals as a club. So I'd love them to take it right up to Sturt, but I can't see it.
Yep, very hard to see that happening. Obviously, the ladder finishing off Norwood, Sturt, Centrals, Glenelg and Woodville West Torrens. Long term, what is South Adelaide and West Adelaide's goals?
South have just got to keep trying to. Look, it's bloody hard where they are. That so many guys in the end this year went, geez, I've just sort of had enough, and the time commitment you required.
Yep.
Go back and play down at Victor or play at Port Districts and less time, and the financial rewards. And so it's really hard at league level now for the time.
Yep.
I think league teams have got to be smarter and go all together, right, we're not starting training at this date. Let's only do this.
Yep.
Just be smarter about it instead of this one trying to get the upper hand, and you're losing players out of it. You're not gaining anything.
All right, we'll leave the SANFL there. We've got a bit to talk about. One last one on that one there. Would you have been a big fan if they'd played them at the local suburban grounds this weekend?
No, it should be.
Yep.
I'm adamant on that. The game, I'll go to Adelaide Oval on Sunday, but the atmosphere there is. I would have much rather gone to either Unley or Glenelg. I would have gone to one of the two.
With 4,500, 5,000,
Yep.
6,000.
And it's just far better off.
Yep.
I think it is ridiculous. And the second semi next week should be at the parade. I think it's crazy.
Yep.
The scoreboard would have been very well run.
Mm-hmm.
That I just think it should be used at the suburban grounds.
Yep. Is it time that we change? I know the players want to play on the Adelaide Oval. I get that. But that's a grand final where you are potentially going to get 25, 30, 40,000 people.
That's what it should be. It should just only be that game. Every other game in the final series. Yes, I understand the players want playing that. Well, I'm sorry. I'd much rather play at a full Nord Oval personally, or a full Unley Oval.
The atmosphere would be amazing.
Far better.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's move on to cricket, mate. I know got to pique your interest to keep us going for the last 15 odd minutes of the episode here. But let's talk cricket. We're going to go right to the heart of it. Sheffield Shield fixtures been released. SA playing New South Wales Monday the 7th of October to Thursday the 10th of October in New South Wales. They're at Cricket Central.
Yeah, look, I'm all for sharing the Shield games around. As much as I love Shield cricket, and as I've said, I go to Shield cricket. I'm one of very few who do, but I still think South Australia should play some games at Mount Gambier.
Yep.
Port Lincoln, whatever, where you'll get people there watching. For mine has a bit of benefit. I get it that the future test players wants to play at Adelaide Oval and all that. So I get all that, but I'm sorry. And I think Saka have lost the boat. The stupidity at charging $10 to get in and $17 to park your car. Yep. So it's $27 for you walk through the gate. I think is just absolute stupidity.
The barrier of entry is the problem.
And for mine, they've lost their social conscience out of that. That there was a hell of a lot of pensioners. That was their meeting place at a Shield game. At a Shield game, where's your responsibility there in the mental health for those people? So all of a sudden, those pensioners they can't afford it.
Yep.
Especially nowadays.
Yep.
At the moment, why not? Right, free.
Yep.
And $17 to park your car, for goodness sake.
Are you still keen for it to be at the Adelaide Oval for the majority of the time, or should they be playing there, say, around the test time, and then the rest of it is farmed out to local grounds like Mount Gambier or Karen Rolton or wherever?
I think it's a better atmosphere at Karen Rolton too. I'd much prefer going to Adelaide Oval. Like Karen Rolton's hard to get a park, and all that. But to be there, so the one-day game where Alex Carey set the world record last year was probably only 200-300 odd people, but there was an actual atmosphere.
Yep.
Where you don't have that at
well, this is why I asked the question. Yeah. Like you've said a couple of times, you could probably count them on one hand. I'm sure the players don't want to play to an empty stadium.
Oh, look, and Kez, when he took the last dismissal, he turned around to everyone on the hill straight away. And don't worry, he was the one person, he knew the test keeping records, the wicket keeping records at first class level. So, and I think, which is great personally, that someone has invested and knew the history of the game.
Absolutely.
And Kez was telling people who he'd equalled as he walked off the ground. I reckon that's great.
Absolutely. All right, let's go through a couple of key stats. Most runs, 762 by Nathan McSweeney last year. Do we sort of see him backing that up a bit?
Hopefully. He's now captain, and I think that's a sensible move. Very happy that he's staying in South Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Vital to keep his girlfriend at Shield Games. I think she could be the major attraction at Shield Games.
Well,
so yes,
maybe we'll get on board with that one there. In the bowling, in the most wickets, Nathan McAndrew
had a good year. Really does. He really enormously respected. He keeps having a crack the whole time. You know, Jordan Buckingham as well. Unfortunately, Spencer Johnson's done a side injury again.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, his injury record in that way.
Yep.
But they've bowling did the job last year. The bowling did enough for job to be around the mark to make the final, let alone being non-competitive as we were. Our batting was disappointing yet again.
Yep. A bit of improvement there for Rhino, hopefully. And obviously Adelaide finished 5th last year. Can we see them making that jump?
Yeah, hopefully. I'm still not sure if there's enough batting, but hopefully.
So depth is still the problem?
Yeah, I suspect so, but yeah.
All
hopefully Jason Sanger arrives, you know. Hopefully a couple other people just have big years. They need Henry Hunt back.
Yes.
And back really in form and setting the stand, and he had an average year last year. Hopefully he rebounds.
Absolutely. All right, I've got the fixture in front of me. We'll go into it a bit more depth next week, but I wanted to move on with some retiring legends of the game. Hugh Greenwood, a journeyman basketballer, then transitions into football, hung up the boots after a career spanning 3 clubs, North Melbourne, Gold Coast and Adelaide, 121 games under his belt. 51 for the Crows, 32 for the Suns, and the remaining 38 for the Roos. Do you think Adelaide missed a trick by moving him on?
Yes, because of his leadership. And that's where he's massively respected. I've heard a couple of North Melbourne guys today talk about him being the one taking them home, cooking, and then setting the standards, going through this, and this. You look purely from the outside, Adelaide lacked leadership, and he was one who should have been there to do it.
I was surprised that they did trade him out or didn't offer him a contract as well. And when you're saying that, I can say that it was another mistake, unfortunately, by the Adelaide Footy Club in that respect. All right, let's move on. Another player, huge respect for Angus Brayshaw from Melbourne. Heartbreaking and premature end to his career on the eve of the 2024 season. The star midfielder informed teammates in February that he was hanging up the boots immediately under medical instruction despite having 5 years remaining on his contract.
Fantastic player, but unfortunately he was one of those players, and they're very, very rare, had no idea how to protect himself whatsoever.
He just lacked that spatial awareness, didn't he?
Yeah, it was just weird how many times he just left himself wide open. And don't worry, I'm still debating with Mark Ducker out there. He's still going on about the Maynard bit, which has me beat.
Yep.
But I'm saying out of that, any other player would have instinctively turned just automatically.
To protect
Brayshaw just never has at any time, and it's unfortunately he was terrible at it. And yeah, great player, but yeah, as you said, terrible spatial awareness.
I think him and Max Gawn were the spiritual leaders of the Melbourne Footy Club, and he was probably the barometer for Melbourne when he was playing and on. They looked like a far more potent side, especially moving into the forward lines.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, we'll move on. Last player this week is Zach Tui, Geelong Premiership player. Tui began his career after being plucked from obscurity in Ireland to land at Carlton back in 2009, announcing his retirement just before the Cats' 2024 run. Tui declared that he'd be a Geelong person forever.
And he's got every ounce out of himself. Good on him. 200-game player. To get that from Ireland, so you haven't grown up playing footy, is just huge. And, yeah, huge credit to Zach Tui. And it'll be interesting to see how much of a spot he gets in the Geelong final series. Wait and see.
The 34-year-old became the most capped Irish-born AFL VFL player last season, surpassing Melbourne great Jim Steins of 264 games. What can you say about this retiring class of 2024? We're going to do, obviously, everybody over the next couple of weeks. I'm just trying to package them up as to players that are a little bit of the heart and soul of their clubs.
Yeah, no, and I think that is the key element of those guys.
Yeah, we sort of had the stars last week of Hawkins and Dusty and Heppel. This week was a little bit more about the heart and the soul of the clubs. There's one player that could have been in there, but I want to spend a bit of time on him with his retirement. Maybe just him and him alone. But
I think Heppel fits in that core group of leaders there, which I think he probably, obviously way below Dusty and that side of things and Hawkins. But yeah, he was a heart and soul as well.
Absolutely. All right, mate. Let's take a very, very quick break. Coming up this week, we've got Wayne Weideman Part 1 on Friday. Really looking forward to that one, mate. The Weed.
Enjoyable.
And on Monday, on our encore episode, Robbie Neal Part 1.
The great man, not the real Bob Neal. Thank you.
Absolutely.
You're listening to the Game On Podcast. We'll be right back after this short break.
Looking to buy or sell your home anywhere in Adelaide, from the hills to the sea? Meet Gary KRIEVS, your dedicated local agent from OUWENS CASSERLY Real Estate. With unparalleled knowledge of Adelaide's housing market and a commitment to exceptional service, Gary ensures a smooth and stress-free experience for all your real estate needs. Trust the expert, trust Gary KRIEVS at OUWENS CASSERLY Real Estate. Your next dream home awaits. Contact Gary today on 0422 071 317 or on email garyk@ocre.com.au. And for more listings, please visit owenscasserly.com.au. Make it happen.
Flashbacks.
All right, mate, we continue our flashback series leading into the finals and the finals. And this week we're going to talk about Geelong and Port Adelaide. And we didn't have to go back too far on this one here because they played each other in round 9 of 2024, and it ended up being a classic game after Port Adelaide kicked about 8 goals in the first quarter to really put Geelong to the sword, and then all of a sudden Geelong made the comeback.
Yes, on the scoreboard duties at the parade that night, Pete Myers and myself weren't happy with Port's big, huge lead and might have been barracking the Cats home, but didn't quite get up.
Once again, Port Adelaide had 6 of their starting 22 out, not counting a clearly injured Charlie Dixon, but somehow the power started very, very strong and held off the Cats by 6 points. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the last couple of minutes of this game.
Schultz back there as well. So they got 2 spare. Geelong need to equalise. They've got 2 sitting behind. They're pointless.
All right, mate, Port Adelaide obviously getting the chocolates there in round 9. It's always hard to win down at GMHBA Stadium, but again, Jason Horne-Francis was unstoppable in the first quarter, and Butters backed it up, and Rosie just seemed to have that balance back, didn't he?
Yeah, and that's probably the bit. They're the key next. They're the key next Thursday night.
Absolutely. All right, mate. We're going to run out of time here, but we're going to quickly scoot into the extra time big finish.
Extra time, big finish.
All right, we're going to hold over the tennis and the beginning of the US Open, but there are a lot of Australians that made it through to the main draw, so
fantastic.
we might give that a little bit more airtime next week, and obviously, hopefully, a few results have gone our way. But just to finish this off, a bit of fun to finish us off with our 100th birthday and raising the bat in our 100th episode. I'm going to play a couple of segments of some interviews we've had, and we'll go from there.
Now let's go to the Crows, Rocket.
Yep.
And let's go to the trial game, the famous trial game against Essendon. Let's not go so much to your playing, but a certain person in the crowd and her attitude that night.
My wife.
Yes. Let's go to Cheryl.
Yeah, if I got injured, I was going to. Yeah, I think I would have died. Yeah, I think she thought I was going to get an elbow in about the. I think an elbow just missed me, and
There's one thing about that game which will never, ever be broken was the crowd for a trial game.
So Rocket there just providing us with a little bit of insight. I had to go back to our first sort of couple of interviews or our first season's lot of interviews to pull up some of this audio. And that one there stands out for me as one of the unbelievable moments that I didn't actually know too much about it. And Rocket was fantastic.
It was funny. Just to say that Rocket was Cheryl was, don't you dare get injured. Don't you dare get injured. Yeah, so it was quite amusing.
All right, let's play another little...
Because they were getting married the next day.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's play a little bit of a snippet from Martin Leslie.
I'd moved from centre-half back one time in that year, if I remember. And all of a sudden in a grand final, you'd go to... you'd mess up your team. Surely sometimes you'd think that, Neville Roberts, an absolute star. Jim Michaelani wasn't a bad player either, mind you.
Piano was a very good player.
Yep.
His son becomes an AFL player in a week's time. So,
yeah. And who's got him?
Probably the Crows.
Yeah, he'll be a father-son. Jim qualifies for his Nord games by 3 games for him to be a father-son selection. So, yeah.
Great. Yeah. So I'll tell you a little funny story there. I could just start darting off. I used to, I'm not an arborist anymore. I still am, but I'm not in that game. And I was up at Sejuna School doing an arborist report. Had to have a chat to the headmaster there, and it was Jim Michaelani.
Yes.
So I hadn't seen him since. Basically, because he probably retired around that time. Would that be right? Mid-80s?
Yes.
I think.
Yeah, mid-80s, yeah. His last game was at the reserves premiership side. I think it was 80. It's either 85 or 86. I think it was 86. But yes, yep.
Yeah. So I remember sort of just touching base in the office there at the school, and I've had to do a report on their trees for safety and for fire and all that sort of thing. And so I ended up Jim come out and I said, Jim, Martin Leslie. He said, oh, how you going, Martin? Very decent chap, as, most of us are when we're off the field. And his assistant, his deputy, was coming along with us. And I said to her, and I can't remember her name now, I said, you know what? In a grand final, your headmaster squeezed me by the nuts. And he said, Jim, you didn't. Because we had a bit of a to-do there, because he actually gave me a good squeeze, and I gave him a little bit of a clip, and that was really funny. That the interaction between her and him. You did not, Jim. Surely.
Don't worry, that's stored in the memory bank when I next speak to Jim, mate.
Obviously, a classic moment there from Martin Leslie. Casual, laconic, played some very, very good teams and under some very, very good coaches. But the respect there, obviously, between Nord and Port. And, geez, that's a funny story. I'm sure that Piano would maybe have a different view of it, but I wouldn't mind finding out what the conversation was with his secretary.
Marty was great. And fantastic, as I mentioned before, the Topsy Waldron link there with the great-great-great-grandfather.
Yes.
And he was fantastic with Nord and helping us out with the Nord history group, Marty. So, greatly appreciated.
All right, I've got a couple more for you, mate, to finish us off very, very quickly. This one's an absolute cracker. Mate, did I read somewhere or hear somewhere that there's a petition circulating trying to get the Adelaide Oval changed to Phillips Field?
Yeah, that's been a massive push, I understand, from one person. That I don't think it's quite caught on as I'd hoped, but so we can have a bit of fun with that. And it's got a nice tone to it. It's got a nice feel to it, I think. So we'll see what happens.
Now, Flip, there was one thing I'm very glad Pete brought that up, because it reminded me. Now, we've just had the national draft occurred, and a certain Wayne Bentley Phillips is probably one of, if not the main reasons why the draft system got changed. Go for that and explain everything what happened, Flip.
Oh, sorry, no, I just a little bit bored and didn't have a lot to do. Just nominated myself for the AFL draft. Yeah, got through the first. Yeah, didn't quite didn't get picked up, but yeah, got some lovely letters from the AFL. And
didn't you put the wide wingman and could boundary umpire at the same time? Morfordville Park C grade or something?
I was going to say, how many SANFL games are we up to?
None.
No. How many A grade games are we up to?
So just. Yeah, it was just a quiet time at the days at SGIC and needed a letter, so yeah, got it done. Yeah, okay.
What made you think of that?
Sorry. I had nothing to do, so yeah, I saw that and thought it might be worth having a bit of a run.
Boys, when they're bored, that's all I can say on that one, mate. That is a unbelievable moment. I'm glad I got to share that one with Wayne Phillips.
Flip's a character. He really is. He's very, very, very dry and great person to spend a night with because all you do is just piss yourself laughing.
Yep.
He's fantastic.
And we thank, obviously, him for being on. And our last one today, mate, Peter McIntyre.
Australia A, you had some success with that in 94, 95, Macca, which probably helped as well.
Yeah, I think so. Look, it was... I'd had a pretty good season, 94, 95, and, it was great that they introduced the Australia A concept, and it was really interesting that, by the end of the tri-series that it seemed like the crowd was on our side.
Yeah.
They were barracking for the underdog and wanted us to knock Australia over, and I don't think Tubby Taylor was very happy about it at the time. So
yeah, I think Tubby he took exception to that probably more than anyone else, actually.
Yeah, he did. He didn't like it. He did not like it. And, we had some serious players in that Australian A side, so that went on to play many, many matches for Australia, the Australian team. So.
Well, it certainly helped Bluey's test to get Bluey's test debut as well.
That's right. Yep.
And Georgie played in that as well, and Hags played a little bit as well. So there was a South Australian connection there as well. Now, Baggy Green, number 364, and of course debuting here at Adelaide Oval against England. Macca, go through your memories there, and of course, obviously, one of them's batting with Bluey. So yeah, and Bluey caught your first wicket too, I reckon, on memory.
He did. I think that was Mike Gadding. And look, to actually, I suppose, have a friendly rivalry with Warnie over many years, to eventually be chosen for my debut in an Australian side, not replacing him but playing with him.
Yep.
I was quite chuffed by that, and I'd come off a pretty good season, pretty confident, and I guess it was the whole, Adelaide Oval factor, two leg spinners against England. And I'll just start, and of course they started on Australia Day back then too. So we, with the Test match opening on Australia Day, was another special day as well.
So obviously finishing off on there from South Australian cricketing royalty, but fantastic journey obviously to Peter McIntyre there with the Australia A team and how that all came about, and then they became popular
and winning the Shield, and then. Celebrations before with the with Maisie, and wishing Tim May all the best out obviously as well.
Absolutely.
And the district final virtually on no sleep and delivered. Yeah, he had a couple of big weeks there, Mac.
Absolutely, mate. We better wrap it up there.
Yep.
I thank you not only for our 100 episodes up, but I also thank our guests that we've been able to have on. We've had some local legends. We've had some absolute, true local and past players and past legends as well. And, mate, I'm really looking forward to the next 100 if we can raise the bat for 200 not out.
We'll certainly be having a crack, mate.
As per usual, we promise to do better next week. And until then, we'll see you guys then.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you.
In this crazy world we live in, we all need the distraction. Enjoying the show? Like, rate, and subscribe. Hook up and connect with us on social media at SportsCast SA. We'll see you next time on Game On.